Hello, my name's Rob Edwards, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we're moving on to episode 3 of the Wheel of Time, called A Place of Safety. As before, I will be choosing 7 images from this week's episode to talk about. There will be spoilers throughout for episodes 1 through 3 of the series, but nothing beyond that, no book spoilers of any kind. And after wearing my white t-shirt to celebrate the White Cloaks yesterday, I thought I'd do my best to sort of channel some Mat energy. So I've got my dressing gown on and a scruffy shirt, which is very much like Mat, and I can't see what I'm talking about. So with that said, let's get on with the review. 7 images for 7 parts of this episode of the Wheel of Time, and I can't not have something from the cold open. Nynaeve versus the Trolloc, channeling her inner... What's the film I'm thinking of? Is it Predator? With Schwarzenegger sort of rising out of the water behind the Predator? That's the energy I was getting from Nynaeve in this episode here. Quite an interesting idea to see one Trolloc preying on another one when that Trolloc was injured. I quite like that. That says a lot about what these creatures are like. I thought, to be honest, that Nynaeve, although awesome though she is, had a bit too much of an easy time defeating this Trolloc one-on-one. She is not a warrior or a soldier. She is fierce and strong and personally powerful, but that doesn't mean that she's really a hand-to-hand fighter. She would certainly employ these techniques if she thought it would help her. So I guess it's fair that she was trying this, but I'm a little surprised by how easily it succeeded. Still, it was an awesome scene. Zoe Robbins killed it and then killed it, if you see what I mean. Briefly, it took me someone else's breakdown of the show to realise that the blood from the Trolloc in the pool had formed a dragon's fang on the surface of the pool. So I'm clearly going to have to be paying more attention to visual stuff like this in future episodes. There's one other thing coming up later on, which I didn't spot for myself, but I did get from one of the behind-the-scenes mini featurette things they are releasing along with the show as well. Still, Nynaeve vs. the Trolloc was a lot of fun, and I'm really glad we got to see it. Next up, Mat and Rand going their own separate ways now. They have this argument about whether they go back to the Two Rivers or whether they continue on. And Mat, because of his sisters, wants to get home, but Rand knows that is not where Egwene is going to go, so he is determined to keep on east towards the White Tower and Tar Valon. And Rand wins the point, and somewhat grudgingly Mat does follow along afterwards. Despite his astute observation, when Rand says all roads lead to the White Tower, Mat says that's not how roads work, which is an obvious line but quite a fun one and extremely well delivered by Barney Harris. This is a stand-in for a lot of things which happen in the books on the journey that Mat and Rand have together on their way to Caemlyn. And if I'd known that's what it was, I think maybe I might have caught a little bit about what was going to happen in this episode more quickly than I did. So I'm actually glad I didn't. I'm glad that the show was able to surprise me, even though I am and have been an inveterate book reader of the series. I thought, again, the scenery gorgeous, the CG and the building of this set was amazing, and I really, really liked everything which basically happened in this town, which is why several more of my pictures are also based here as well. Speaking of which, Tom Merrilin finally makes his introduction into the series. He has a great voice, a great presence, and I really like him as a character. I think his interaction with Mat, in particular in this episode, was very, very fun. The sort of back and forth with the stolen purse, and he gets to show how world-wise he is when Mat and he discuss the ale in the cage. And we also see his philosophy on life. He says, we've all had hard times. So he's not going to stop Mat robbing the corpse of the ale, but he is going to demand that at least the ale gets some respect. Warrior of the threefold land, may you find water and shade. Again, some nice world building for stuff which is presumably still some way off in the series. We cut back and forth between Rand and Mat, Nynaeve and Lan, and of course Egwene and Perrin. And actually I'm not sure how well this picture comes out looking at it again. Wolves, they're quite good at blending into the background. Who knew that a hunting animal would be good at that? But I did want to mention the wolves. After the really strange scene in episode 2, we get some more hints that the wolves and Perrin have something of a relationship here, as they drive them not into danger, not to take them down, but they drive Perrin and Egwene towards potentially the eponymous place of safety from the episode title. And I really like that. It's a shame. It's fairly clear that a character who helped Perrin and Egwene in the books is not going to make an appearance here. That is a shame on several levels. But again, they have to make cuts. They have to make cuts. They've got a lot of ground to cover in this series. So, I get it. I get why that character is not present. We also saw, of course, a wolf turning up in Perrin's dream. I don't think I have a screenshot of this, so it's worth mentioning it now. We have another of these weird dreams with the ember-eyed man and a wolf eating the remains of Perrin's wife in the dream version of their forge. It was all fairly horrific, to be honest, and kind of icky-making, but again, another really strong element of Perrin's story starting to make its way to the fore there. Dana, I think it was Dana, and her relationship with Mat and Rand in this episode was fascinating to watch. The way that she treats the two of them quite differently, and in both cases it is clear that she is attempting to build a rapport with them. She kind of goes along with Rand, sort of accommodating and kind and helpful, because I think she knows that's going to be what will help her with Rand. Whereas at the same time, her attitude to Mat is a lot more sort of sarcastic and undercutting and a bit of banter back and forth. And that really is exactly what she needs to do to endear herself to Mat. And it's really interesting that they do this. And actually, I think she's a brilliant character. There is a thing which is... I want to mention this now before I forget to say it. There is a thing which came up in one of the little behind-the-scenes documentary things that they've produced for this series, which made my book reader heart thrill once I'd seen it. I'd seen the episode before I looked at the behind-the-scenes stuff, and I'm very glad I did, because there is a brilliant thing that they've done here, in that the tavern that Dana runs has outside the front door 4 posts with engravings, with carved images of sort of noble men, essentially, big beards and looking proud, on these posts outside the inn. And basically, these are to represent 4 kings. And if you are as much of a book reader as I am, then you will probably recognise the phrase 4 kings, having an association with Mat and Rand's journey after Shadar Logoth. And it's a brilliant thing that they've put in there, just this tiny little Easter egg. most people are not even going to spot it. Even the book readers like me aren't necessarily going to key to this fact. And I love that they did that. The denouement of this scene, basically where Dana reveals herself as a dark friend, that she's been deliberately trying to trap Mat and Rand, and so that she can hand them over to the Dark One, that she's already somehow managed to summon a Fade to come and get them. This is one of the great things about Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, I think, that we do have all of these shadow spawn who are clearly warped and twisted and animalistic or horrific looking, like the Fades and the Drakkar and all this kind of stuff. But then against that, you do have these people that, for one reason or another, have sworn themselves to the Dark One. And Dana's reason for swearing herself is really quite interesting, that she's seen so much of this world be downtrodden and downbeaten and never really getting a sense of escape. And she has sworn herself to the dark just for the possibility that it might shatter the wheel and let people break their bonds, essentially, and find new ways forward. And while this is extremely naive of her, you can completely understand why someone might come to this conclusion. And this idea that the Dark Friends, anyone that you meet in the Wheel of Time, could secretly be sworn to the dark. There's no way of looking at a person and saying, aha, this person is a Dark Friend. Because until that moment where she goes, was it the braid? Did it remind you too much of her? Of Egwene? Oh, you good. Love it. And I also liked, sorry, I get very excited about it because I think this was fantastic. I also liked that Mat and Rand basically just run. They're sort of booking it down there, being chased by this woman with Rand's dad's sword. And it is Tom who comes to the rescue. There is no way these two can really have any way to deal with this situation. But Tom knows the world enough, has heard enough of what she has said to know that she is a dark friend, and does what needs to be done to rescue Mat and Rand from this. This scene made this episode for me. Possibly my favourite thing from the TV show so far. Yeah. Fantastic. We sort of end up with Perrin and Egwene finding a group of the travelling folk, the Tinkers, the Tuatha, call them what you will. And they are the ones, despite the fact that it looks like Rand and Mat are the ones who found a place of safety, but it is with the Tinkers, or so it seems, that Perrin and Egwene have found their way here. I haven't really said very much about their storyline. It's interesting that Perrin has realised that Egwene can channel and seems okay with it. And the pair of them supporting each other as they go through this stuff that they're going through is a great thing to see. We haven't really seen enough of the Tinkers to form really much of an opinion of them in the show so far. I am delighted to have a take on how to say Aram, because I have read that name so many different ways in the books. Aram, Aram, Aram. It does seem Aram is the way they're going in the show, and that's what I'm going to try and remember to call him from now on. And I haven't really spent a lot of time in this video talking about the plot with Lan, Nynaeve and Moiraine. And that's because I don't really have a lot to say about it. I mean, I loved it. I love the interaction between Nynaeve and Lan. It's really important to me to see those two characters interacting. Important to see the relationship that Nynaeve is going to have with Moiraine in particular. A much more sort of combative relationship there. But despite that, Nynaeve is still willing to do her bit to heal. Now, interestingly, it does seem to be somewhat under duress in the show. I think in the book she's much more, look, I'm a wisdom, my job is to heal people if I can, I will heal you even though I don't like you. And I think there might have been a little bit of a hint that maybe she wouldn't have healed Moiraine if Lan hadn't held the possibility of finding the others over her head, which is a bit of a change of the books. I'm not sure how much I like that, but there we go. It is what it is. And the button, of course, on this episode, somehow in this huge, vast world of the Wheel of Time, Lan has managed to find another group of Aes Sedai. And he has taken Moiraine there with Nynaeve to get Moiraine healed, properly healed from her Trolloc wound. And as they come around the corner, we see Liandrin Sedai of the Red Aja basically saying, "We have him. We have captured the Dragon Reborn." And this is where we get our first proper view of Clegane in this series. And I am very excited to see what happens next with him. So there we go. That's my 7 images from episode 3. By the way, 7 images. I don't think I explained this time last time around. 7 images because the Wheel of Time has 7 spokes. Just me being weird. I'm in a dressing gown. What can you say? So, oh yeah, rating. I should give a rating. I'm going to give this 9.5. I might give it 10, except I really do still hope that there is going to be something which is going to be even better coming out there. But I love this episode. I love just about every aspect of this episode. So it's a huge thumbs up from me. So a score of 9.5 going on 10, depending on whether this is the best or whether there is still yet better to come. And with that, I am fully caught up just in time to watch the next episode of The Wheel of Time on Friday evening with my wife. You can expect my breakdown of that episode early next week. So in the meantime, thank you for watching. Cheers.